Weapons hot and one-liners at the ready, recruits. This ain't just some summer blockbuster vacation. This is the real deal. You've been chosen as part of an elite task force for the month of action. Now when those bullets start to fly and everything around you is up in flames, don't you lose your nerve. Remember who you are. You're the toughest, craziest, most resourceful sons of bitches to ever lace them up. We don't wait for backup and we damn sure don't retreat. Now strap your asses in and get ready for the drop. Oh, and one more thing. Before you pull that trigger, tell them John Mortis sent you.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Bucket of Chum, the Shark Movie Podcast. As always, I'm your host, Captain Steve, and this is the first episode for the month of action. So as I mentioned in a previous episode, the month of July, a bunch of podcasters are getting together and just doing a collaborative effort with B Action and Gimme Back My Action and Horror Movies for an entire month of action movies. Now, I'm not going to do the whole month probably, but we're definitely doing 2, maybe 3 reviews that are basically in the action genre, still related to shark movies though. So I decided to group this movie in with it because I think it kind of fits with the B action theme. So make sure you go check out all the other podcasts that are participating in this. There's quite a few of us. So yeah, I'm hoping it's going to be a really great month from my end. Judging by what everybody else has planned, it's going to be fucking fantastic. So I hope you guys check that all out. But today we're going to be talking about Kaiju Glam Metal Shark Attack from 2024, directed by Brett Kelly. Again, that's Kaiju Glam Metal Shark Attack. And also, this is around episode 100. I may have missed it by a couple of episodes, but yeah, we're more or at least 100 episodes into the podcast. So I just want to say right at the top of this, thank you to everybody who has been listening. I really honestly didn't think that I would make it this far. I had no idea that I would make it to 100 episodes and more, and there's no plans to stop. We're going to keep going, but thank you to everybody who listens and watches, all of that. Thank you all so much. And yeah, I'm really excited to talk about this movie. It is from a Canadian director, distributed by SRS Cinema. So Brett Kelly has also directed Jurassic Shark, Ouija Shark, Nano Shark, Puppet Shark, and Raiders of the Lost Shark. So some of those I've covered before, and a lot of them in the first couple of years I did the podcast. Jurassic Shark and Ouija Shark were 2 probably favorites from the first year that I did. So I'm very excited to check this movie out as well. And also, this is a listener requested episode. Misha, who I've mentioned on the podcast way earlier on, suggested that I do this episode, and I've always had this one on the list, but I decided to move it up a little bit closer because they requested it, and it's the month of action, and I felt like this movie just kind of fits in with all that. So Misha, I really hope you enjoyed the episode, as I hope the rest of you do as well. But now let's get into the Letterboxd plot synopsis. You're going to need a bigger stadium. An accident from space has resulted in the creation of a kaiju shark man. The wanton destruction has a pair of glam rock loving music fans worried that the concert they have been waiting their whole year for will be cancelled. Will the world be destroyed? Will the glam metal concert go on? So there's not enough for an average rating on this on Letterboxd, but there's quite a range from 5 stars to 2 to half stars, I guess. But I'm guessing that the average would probably be around 2.5 or 2 stars, which is pretty on par with a lot of what we do here. So I'm very excited to see that. For poster expectations, I want this poster on my wall. It's just got this whole hand-painted style to it, and it's just a giant shark man shredding guitar standing over a city with spotlights on him. I love this poster so much. As far as what to expect, I think knowing the other films from the director, we're going to get everything we like. We're going to get some silly CGI, some gore, probably silly gore, but a lot of practical work mixed in with the dodgy CGI and whatnot. But again, this is the kind of things we like to see in these micro budget films. They're not the type of things I like seeing in bigger budget films, because it's where did you spend your fucking money? But in these micro budget films, I'm this is the kind of stuff I like to see. So, and I'm also hoping to see some model work, because it's a kaiju. So hopefully we see something like that. And like the shark is probably just going to be a dude in a suit, I assume. And I hope that's what it is. Like, that's what I'm hoping for. And before we go any further, if you're enjoying the show and you would like to support the show, you can go to patreon.com/bucketofchum. Each month, I'm doing an exclusive episode over there. Last month, we just took a look at Blades from 1988, which is one of the best Jaws knockoffs/parody films ever made. So make sure you go check that out. You can sign up for $2 or $3 a month, depending on where you live. If you can't do that, I would just appreciate a like and subscribe on the YouTube channel, or a 5-star rating or review wherever it is you listen to your podcast. Anything like that just really helps the podcast out, and I greatly appreciate it. But now there's nothing else left to do other than to get your glam metal rock and dance shoes on, and let's dive in. So we start off with a space shuttle launch, and this is all like stock footage, maybe like one animation or something. And then we see people in a control room celebrating the successful launch. So we know that this definitely isn't a SpaceX launch. And then as the astronauts are communicating, their radios cut out in some like random static. And then we just see this satellite kind of losing its orbit and then starts heading towards Earth. And again, all this stuff in space is like just super dodgy CGI, not a whole lot of animation going on. But again, this is exactly like what we expect from these micro-budget movies. So far I'm not disappointed. I'm like, this is exactly what I was hoping for. And then we go down to this Mohawk dude who's fishing on a lake, and it's just a guy in front of a green screen it's a bald man who has like a fake mohawk like taped onto his head. You can actually see it like peeling off the like front and back of his head. But again, like this is the kind of stuff that we're here for. So it's great. And then he's kind of asking like what's spooking all the fish and whatnot. And then we just see like a random CGI shark swimming underneath his boat. And this is a little bit important in a second here. At first I was like, well, I don't know really why they included this, but I kind of get it like now. But anyways, he spots the satellite coming at him, and it hits his boat with this really bad CGI. And then under the water, we just see this like foam shark fin start to rise up. So basically the reason the shark is there because this man and shark basically combine to make one mutated being at some point. So that's kind of how this Shark Man is created. We cut to a news report on the incident, and they say it crashed near a populated area, but landed in the water, and there should be no harm to the public. Nobody was hurt. And then we cut to two women watching this news report, and then they say that they're waiting for a concert announcement from a band called Gelatin Skeleton touring Canada. And this is a real band that the director Brett Kelly is a part of. So they are like a real like glam metal rock band or whatever you want to call it. But anyways, the announcement finally comes, and they announce that they're doing a special concert to kick off their tour in Ottawa. And to get in, you need like a valid ID, and then you have to find some items from a scavenger hunt, but you have to be like the first like 2 callers in or something like that. So they call the radio station, and then I realized, I'm like, so now they're listening to a radio station, but I thought they were just watching the news, unless they were just listening to the news on the radio. But either way, again, this is just all part of like the micro-budget film world, and it's kind of fun, it's silly. But anyways, they call, they win the tickets as long as they do the scavenger hunt, and so they celebrate, and then they check their phones for the list of what to get for the scavenger hunt. Then we see 2 kids, and they're also trying to call the radio station, trying to get the tickets. They finally get through, and they lie about their age. Like, the radio host is like, how old are you? And they're like, 18. And they're like, yeah? What grade are you in? Grade 2 of college. And the radio host is like, yep, sounds good to me. And so he just lets these 2 fucking kids win. And then, again, they just get, like, the scavenger list, and, it's basically the same thing. And then we go outside, and there is a man watering his garden or lawn or something, and then he's kind of bitching about being, like, a house husband or something, and, like, this isn't what he wants to be doing. He wants to be a content creator, and his dog is barking, like, driving him nuts all of a sudden. And then he looks down the street, and he sees the shark man walking down the street. And I was not prepared for the silliness of this shark costume at all. Like, I definitely was not prepared for this. So it's just a silly fabric costume. I covered a movie in the first year of the podcast, Jaws of the Shark, which was also distributed by SRS, and I think it was a film from Sweden. The shark costume is kind of like that. It's just like a really quote-unquote terrible-looking sort of shark suit, but again, like the kind of things we expect from these micro-budget movies, and it just really plays into the fun. But yeah, this is the dude that was fishing, because he's got the mohawk, like the red or orange mohawk going on and everything. So this dude gets his phone out and he starts filming it, and he says he's going to go viral, so he gets all excited. And then we cut to breaking news, and a reporter is reporting on this shark man, saying that he's like 10 feet tall, but his location is unknown, and for everybody to be on alert and on the lookout for him. We go back to the two women, and they get news about the shark man. Like, they get a news alert on their phone, and so they see the video, but of course they just think it's fake. So they start going over the list for the scavenger hunt, and one of them is a music cassette, and they have no idea what this is. Kids these days. And then we go to a top secret military facility. And then there's a man and a woman. I assume that they're both generals or something. And then a major comes in and tells them that the satellite that crashed had some experimental mutagenic materials on it for reasons mostly unknown. There's like, we don't know why. Maybe to test anti-gravity on these matters, but it doesn't make any sense, and at the end of the day, nobody knows. It's just a weird excuse to have a shark man in a movie, and I'm all here for it. And then, of course, he tells them that there's been reports of a shark man walking around, and it could potentially be because of the satellite. And the two at the table don't fully believe it, but then the major says that they have people looking at the video to make sure, like, it's authentic, and they ask to, like, be kept up to date on all this, and he's like, sure thing, and then he leaves. So we go back to the two kids. They go over the scavenger hunt list, and they go looking for the items. And then we get this couple leaving like a metal bar or something like that. And then they come across the shark man, who is glowing. And then the dude comments, he's like, he's not that big. And then the shark man just grows into like the massive like kaiju thing, just out of nowhere. So he starts off as like 10 feet tall, and now he's kaiju size for reasons. I guess whatever this experimental mutagenic material is that now making him bigger. And then this is where we get the shark man knocking buildings down and people running away. So when it's the shark man knocking buildings down, it's like this, I think I'm assuming like this is just really bad CGI, and then it's just obviously a close-up of the shark man with this CGI placed in front of him. So not really as much model work as I was hoping for, but again, like with how small this budget probably was, this makes a lot of sense. And looking at this, like, we show some people, like, running away, and I'm like, I'm pretty sure I know exactly where this was filmed. It looks like it was filmed across, like, an A&W and Eastside Mario's near a couple places that I used to work at. So that was pretty cool to actually recognize a lot of the scenery, because it was filmed in Ottawa, which is where I'm from, and sort of living right now. So it was very cool to see, like, some of these locations that I actually recognized. But anyways, we cut back to the news again, and they're reporting that the shark man is now giant, and then the news reporter is about to describe it, and then he, like, checks his earpiece, and he's like, do we really need to describe it? Will people get confused about, you know, another giant shark man running around? Obviously not. There's only one giant shark man in this movie. Maybe in a sequel we can get two giant shark men, because that would be dope. So then we go back to the two girls, and they're on the hunt for their items. We see a guy who thinks he's going to be called in to help because he's an expert or something. We come back to him later on, and we find out that he's not necessarily an expert, but he just has something that can help with this whole situation. So we go back to the military base. The two generals, or whoever they are arguing about how such a thing could happen and how it sounds like it's straight out of a B movie. And I'm pretty sure one of them looks directly at the camera when he says this too. Amazing. The major just comes rolling in on a rolling chair, like super fast, hits the wall, and then like just slowly kind of maneuvers himself at the table so he can talk to them. And then he just like kind of starts briefing them. And then he says scientists have discovered a radio signal playing rock music is like emanating from the shark man, and that he also used to be a fisherman. And again, this is all because of the satellite. And then he then says that the shark is following rock and roll music. Like wherever he hears rock and roll music, he is following. And so this is all rock and roll related somehow. We then see the shark man like walking around, and there are some people on a bridge pointing at him. Then they start like running away and panicking. And then we cut back to shark man, and he's like crashing buildings, and then just more people running away and shit. And then we hear a radio broadcast telling people to evacuate the city immediately. But then we go back to the women, and they've just bought some tapes, and they're going over like what tapes that they bought. And then they get another news warning. And so now they're starting to think that this is the real deal. And so they watch a video of a reporter saying that the shark is now kaiju size. And the reporter even asks like what a kaiju is. And he's like, oh, so can't I just say it's giant sized? I mean, technically, yes, but I mean, kaiju is just more fun. And he then says that the shark's motivations are unknown, but events seem to be focused on rock and roll, and any events that have like rock and roll going on should be canceled. So it's kind of like Footloose, except with rock music. We're not allowed to have rock music, except there's an actual real danger in this, whereas Footloose, it was just because people were a bunch of assholes. We then cut to this woman who I guess works for the space agency, which is what I think they call like the version of NASA in this movie. They just refer to it as the space agency. And then she says that this has nothing to do with her company's satellite or anything like that. So just, of course, in full denial of all of this. The two girls that we've been following start getting frustrated that the concert might be canceled. So they're going to go down to the venue to see like what the deal is, see if it's still going on or not. I'm like, there's a giant monster attacking your city. Why are you concerned about going to a concert? Like, good Lord, just get out of the city. And then we get a shot of the shark man walking in some water, and we see a couple of cruise ships, and then we go and cut to someone on a cruise ship. Anytime we cut away to like somebody in something, on something, or in a different location, most of the time it's just like really terrible green screen. But again, I say this out of love. But when he's looking up at the kaiju monster, he says like, oh my god, he's possessed by the love of rock and roll. And I'm assuming he then dies. Like, this movie is just insane. Like, it's just a fucking fever dream. But honestly, like, up until this point, like, I'm still enjoying the hell out of it. Again, this is super micro budget, so if that's not your thing, like, you're probably not going to get much out of this. But anyways, we then go back to the two kids, and they stare at a like fried chicken leg, and then one of them says that they don't think that this is what they meant when they're asking for a drumstick on the scavenger hunt. Amazing. And so they said that they should probably get a wooden one just in case. I like all these little gags in here. Like, it's just fun, it's dumb, it's silly. This kind of just feels like it was made for, almost like this movie was made for these kids in a way. I don't know who they are. They might be related to the director, because when I see the credits, they all have, a lot of them have the same last name as Brett does. So I'm just assuming that this is just like a big family affair, and it's just all of them having fun, which is fucking great. We go back to the military base, and the three amigos are watching a video of the shark man destroying buildings. And then the next video is from outside a glam metal rock concert, and the major explains what glam metal is and all of that. They then suggest that they have some newly trained recruits, so they should put them on a chopper and see what they can do. And then the general is like, ah, yes, this is my favorite part. Let's do a training montage. And so we just cut to a bunch of stock footage of army dudes training. And I guess they're actually like watching this on a TV too. Like, that's how the scene is kind of set up, which it's just wild. And then after all of that, the general says to get these boys airborne and see what they can do about this shark man. And so we get some dramatic footage of like a chopper flying, getting ready to approach the shark man. And the shark man is just continuing to knock buildings down as this chopper flies around. And then the chopper opens fire, shooting missiles at it, but they miss it and end up hitting a building instead. And they just say, whoops. And so they try again, and now a second chopper has joined the fight, and they just end up hitting another building. So these people are fucking terrible at their jobs. And then we just randomly cut to some dude who's trimming some like dead hedges. Like, I think they were filming this in the wintertime, like at least a lot of it. So there's definitely parts where like people are outside doing stuff, and it's just like they should be doing this in the summertime, but obviously they shot it in the winter. So he's just like trimming these hedges, so to speak, but like there's no leaves on them or anything. And he just looks up into the sky like he's looking up at the shark man and just says like, you better not ruin my dinner party. And then like that's it. That's all we get of that. It's just, I just love all of these random little cutaways. It's insane. This is very much like a Polonia Brothers movie. So like if you enjoy those types of vibes, then like you might get something out of this, but maybe lower your expectations, because again, this is micro budget. This isn't like a big action budgeted movie or anything. But yeah, I love all these little cutaway things. They're just silly. And I feel like maybe some of these were probably people who invested in the movie. Like maybe this was part of the perks on a Kickstarter or something. Because I know a lot of people do, like, you know, if you contribute so much money, you can get like a guest spot in the movie. So I kind of feel like that's what a lot of these little incidences are, which is fine. Like, I think it's great and it's pretty funny. Back at the base, the major is on the phone giving a report on the situation to somebody on the other line. And then he kind of avoids the questions about like collateral damage and whatnot, trying, obviously, because they knocked down a couple of buildings, so he doesn't really want to say that. But we go back with these two women that we've been following, and one of them says that they heard the shark might be headed their way, but still, they're going to go to the venue and see if the concert is still happening. But they also got to find their last item, a drumstick. So they video call one of their friends, I'm assuming, and he shows them like his basement full of drumming stuff, and then he says he's going to put the drumsticks in his mailbox because he doesn't go outside anymore because it's too dangerous. And I'm like, that's actually still accurate to today, but I mean, that's a whole other thing. So he slowly makes his way outside. He's holding a beer and he's walking with a cane, and then he puts these two drumsticks in the mailbox when he hears the shark. He looks around, and then he just grabs these two giant drumsticks and then just starts walking out. And now, reading this back now, I honestly don't remember if we see this man ever again. He just walks off with giant drumsticks, which I now realize that would have been cool to see the shark man with, but I don't think that that happens. That's a little bit of a missed opportunity, in my opinion, but still, again, like, these little gags are still just fucking hilarious. And then we just get a few more random shots of, like, people doing stuff and reacting to the shark man without really being in the same scene together or anything. And then we cut to a news report that the giant shark has entered Canada, which I assumed it was in Canada the whole time, so I don't really know what's going on. But and they say that people should stay inside, go to their basement, not panic. And then he holds his earpiece again, and he's like, yeah, should I panic? And then after a pause, he looks at the camera and then fucks off and runs away. So yes, panic, everybody, panic, there's a giant shark man. So Shark Man continues to knock some buildings down, and the shark-obsessed dude, or the dude with the knowledge or something, says that, like, surely they're going to call him now, and that, like, only his creation can take care of this. And he looks beside him, and he has some sort of device. I don't know what it is yet at this point. I assume it's some sort of big weapon, which it will be. We'll save that for a little bit later. But then we go back to the base. The Major says that they can lure the shark with the concert and trap it, which I'm like, yeah, I think we already discussed this, but they're still planning on doing it. They just haven't done it yet. And then we get more breaking news. The shark has made its way to Ottawa, and the public is asked to stay indoors, and if you see the giant shark, don't stop for selfies, don't point at the sky and say, ah! Don't do any of that. And then the kids see this news, and again, they just keep looking for their scavenger hunt items. It's like, people believe this, but they're not taking it seriously. And I feel like this is actually sort of a commentary on the youth of today. This actually feels a little bit relevant in a way. As silly as it is, I'm just like, it kind of makes sense, and I can kind of see, you know, people on the news being like, hey, don't stop for a fucking selfie, run. This all does kind of make sense to me. But then they get a second alert saying that the shark is getting closer, and so they decide that they need to start heading for the venue. But then they hear the shark, and then they spot it right near them and start running. As they do, the shark starts throwing like several cars at them, and we just get like this really like terrible CGI. And then this other car just like randomly crashes in front of them and is just like completely destroyed before it reaches them. And then we just get more of the shark knocking over some buildings. We see a plane take off, and then there's a passenger on the plane, and by on the plane, I mean he's on a green screen with an empty plane as his background, and he sees the shark. The shark throws a car at the plane, and the plane just fucking explodes. I don't know where they got this footage from, but it looked like an actual plane exploding, or like maybe a model plane exploding, but it was a little impressive because it wasn't like fully CGI, I guess. So I mean, that was something. That was pretty entertaining. And then we go back to the military base. The general says it's time to bring out the big guns, and they start firing missiles at the shark from some other bases, maybe. It's a little unclear. Yeah, they fire a bunch of missiles at it. They hit the shark very slowly, but the shark emerges from like the cloud of smoke and all that completely unharmed. So the military then decides that they're going to launch a land assault, which I'm like, I probably would have started with the land assault, ended with the missile assault, and then, gone to plan C or D or whatever. But anyways, they start sending some tanks after it, start shooting at it. I don't know what the tanks are going to do that the missiles didn't do, but they decide to try it anyways. And then the shark smacks a helicopter out of the sky, and it crashes. Again, this is just this awful CGI. And then the tanks continue to fire at it, and the shark expert, or whoever he is, still says that like none of this will work, and only his device or creation will work. And then we hear his mom tell him to go and take out the garbage, and he's like, "Shut up, Mom." Also, this dude's like 40, 45 or something, which kind of makes it a little bit funnier. Mostly just in the way that he delivers the, "Not right now, Mom," like he's a fucking teenager. And then we see the kids, they're still running from Shark Man, and the women finally come across it, and they start heading for somewhere safe. And this, like, more buildings collapse as the kids run away. And then we go back to the shark expert dude, and he finally gets a phone call, and it's the one he's been waiting for. And he basically says he wants $500,000, and then he'll set his machine loose on this thing. And so he receives the funds, and he starts squealing with excitement, and he says that he's going to activate the robot. So this thing that's beside him, his creation, this work, or whatever it is just a giant robot that he's built to... I don't know why this civilian has this giant robot for fighting giant things, but he does. Don't question it. So, and this part we see some giant shark feet walking around, which was great. And it kicks like a toy army Hummer. Again, this is supposed to be real, but it's like very clearly a toy. And then we see one of the women that we've been following around is just stomped by the shark as one of the kids watch. And so they start running away. They don't seem as concerned by this as they should be, but I mean, that's just the youth of today. What are you going to do? And then the robot is finally turned on. It starts headed for the shark, and it starts shooting lasers at it, but again, still has no effect on this shark. And the kids are also apparently like right in the middle of all this going on, and one of them yells for the robot like, "Yeah, go get it, boys, go get that shark." And then the robot dude like runs onto the scene, and he tells the robot to show that thing who's boss. And then the robot sends out an orb or a drone or something. It's just like a circular drone with like guns that come out on the side. Kind of like if you've ever seen Oblivion with Tom Cruise, and there's like those like drones that they use for protection or whatever. It looks just like that. I wonder if like this is just an asset they bought for like Blender or something. It doesn't matter, but that's what it looks like. And so like it starts shooting explosives and lasers at it. And then the shark is like screaming or roars like a kaiju scream or whatever. But the shark still stands, has no effect on it, and the robot dude starts to seem a little bit worried. And then the shark starts shooting fire out of its mouth for inexplicable reasons other than why the fuck not. Like, sure, let's just have fire coming out of it. It doesn't matter. So it shoots fire at the robot dies, robot dude is very upset by this, and then the shark stomps on him, so he is now dead too. And then right after, like immediately after this, the other woman from the two Gelatin Skeleton fans is just stepped on and crushed. So like we're just done with those two. No more, all gone. And then the shark crunches like a paper toy car that they have made with like just epic sound effects going on. Like they add like the crunching glass and metal, and it just really doesn't matches what we're seeing, which just adds to like the comedy and enjoyment of all of this. It's fucking great. And then we hear somebody report this to the general, and apparently it was his car that got crushed, even though I don't think it's anywhere near the base, but again, it doesn't fucking matter. And then we hear that the band has agreed to go on early to help set up this trap. So they start playing. The boys are just outside the bar, so they run into the bar for safety. The Shark Man then picks up a giant guitar or maybe just something big and just starts rocking out. He's having a great time. And then the generals at the base are rocking out while the band is playing, even though they're not in the same location, but whatever. Everyone's a fan of Gelatin Skeleton. And then we just see the band playing for a little while, And like Sharkman seemed to really enjoy it, and then he just starts shrinking, and then just returns to human form. So he wasn't like that upset. He just needed some glam metal. Glam metal saved the day. I never thought that I would ever say those words, but glam metal saved the day, guys. After the concert, the kids comment how great the show was, but it sucks that those ladies got squished. And they're like, oh, look. So they look up at the sky, and then the two women are just there in the sky in ghostly form, and they all just like give each other the devil horns, and everyone's happy about that, I guess. And so we go to a news report, and they say it's over. And again, the lady from the space agency like denies having any involvement with this, or the satellite had anything to do with it. And they're like, but we fully intend to launch this satellite again, because what could go wrong? And then the news reporter asks some questions like, who's going to pay for all this? Will it ever happen again? And then like a few other random ones. And then says, and now some fluffy puppies. And then we just cut to a montage of fluffy puppies for a little bit. Adorable. and then credits roll. That's the whole fucking movie. Like, oh my god. Like, what did I just watch? Like, this is a fucking fever dream. Listen, I'm not going to rag on the acting or anything really from this movie. Again, you can tell this was done with friends and family. It's just a fun little movie, not meant to be taken too seriously. And I also noticed in the credits that one of the characters' name, I'm not sure who it was. I'm assuming it's one of the boys, but they were credited as Alex with an I, Alex Kittner. So that's cool. A little bit of a Jaws reference in there. As I said before, Gelatin Skeleton is a real band that Brett Kelly is a part of. So make sure you go and check them out. I'll try and have links down below for all this stuff. But yeah, this is not one I would recommend to a ton of people. Just because I don't know a lot of people that like this type of low budget, like micro budget filmmaking. But did I like it? Fuck yeah, I did. This was just fun. It was just pure nonsensical fun. It's like the Polonia Brothers. Like, keep your expectations low. Just go along for the ride. But again, if you don't like micro budget movies, you're not really going to get anything out of this that you would from maybe other ones. But yeah, if you like micro budget movies, check this one out. I watched it on Fossum for free, and it's basically only an hour long, so it's not even really that much time out of your day. But I think as far as ratings go, I'm going to go for 3 stars. Like, it's not a great movie, but fuck, I had a lot of fun watching this, man. Like, this was just such a good time. And yeah, you gotta support some Canadian filmmakers while we're here too, so yeah. But anyways, guys, that's all I have for you this episode. Thank you so much for listening. Don't forget, you can check me out on all the social medias, at Bucket of Chum or at Bucket of Chum Podcast. And I'll see you guys next time for even more Bucket of Chum.
That was one hell of an action sequence, soldier. I haven't seen shooting like that since the Battle of New Hope. The month of action couldn't have done it without you. Mission accomplished.